Maryland basketball can absolutely beat Indiana.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys all for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland basketball has another game today against Indiana, and I think the Terps absolutely have an opportunity to be able to get their first Big Ten win, and it feels like get their first real win in a while, first meaningful win in a while. And I think the Terps do match up well against this Indiana team. I think there's a lot of pluses against this Indiana team that the Terps could potentially take advantage of. Do not get me wrong, Indiana's a good team, and they've played well so far this season. I think when you look at their record, they're a good team. But when you really dive into things, Maryland basketball can have the opportunity to beat this Indiana team that's fighting for a tournament, but currently right now at 11-3 right now. They haven't beaten a ton of great teams. Like they beat Kansas State, who isn't awesome this year, just decent. Then they've also have beaten teams like Washington. They haven't beaten anyone in Penn State, anyone that's like a real big win. Like they lost their big games to Louisville, to Kentucky, but nonetheless, they have more wins than us and have played better than us so far this season. But when you dive into some of their stats, into some of their games and how they've played so far this year, they've been inconsistent so far this year. And they've had some games where you look at them and you're like, this team might not be as good as maybe their record indicates, or as good as a lot of people think. I'm not saying they're not better than Maryland. I'll be the first one to tell you they have a better team than Maryland, and they've definitely done more than this Maryland team has done. I just think Maryland has the opportunity to win this game and to potentially do some things against Indiana. I think Maryland has that type of team. I think Maryland could get something done in this game against Indiana for a couple different reasons why. First, when we look at Indiana, I talked about it yesterday a little bit when you preview them. Their offense has been really inconsistent so far this year. When you look at some of their opponents that they've played, they've had some really different types of games where some games you'll see them play really well offensively, and other games you're like, that team doesn't look that good offensively. As they've had 3 games with under 70 points, which is definitely not like as bad as Maryland quite has been offensively, I would say, but they haven't been very consistent offensively when you look at it. Like they'll drop 113 against Penn State, but then against Minnesota, they'll struggle and lose the game 73-64 because Minnesota just outplays them offensively. Usually, even when they're defensively, defense is fine. Even with some of their talent that they have, they still shoot the ball poorly. Like they shot the ball like 29% against Minnesota, and you look at them and you're like, dang, from the 3-point line, you're like, this team offensively, you might be able to crack in a lot of different ways, even against a team like UIW, who a lot of you guys probably don't even know. They only put up 69 points. Kentucky, they struggled offensively, only putting up 60 points to Kentucky's 72. When they lose game, it's because of the offense. And you look at Maryland as a similar matchup where Maryland hasn't been good offensively at all this year. We've had a ton of struggles. Our shooting hasn't been great. Nothing's been great offensively. Very few guys that you feel like you can rely on. It's also been very up and down for about the entire roster. Like there's nobody that I've been like consistently or like that's playing that you're like, yeah, we feel good about them scoring, we feel good about them putting up points. But that's a good reason why I think Maryland could actually match up against Indiana. If Maryland plays a decent defensive team, you could see Indiana not have a good offensive output. And Maryland actually have the ability to keep up with them offensively. I think that's definitely in the cards for Maryland. I think that definitely could end up happening for Maryland, where you see an Indiana team not play very good defensively. And so I definitely think that's something that we could see Maryland do, and Maryland be able to slow down this Indiana team. And then from there, I think they have the opportunity to win the game. Now, it's going to come down to a couple different things for Maryland basketball. But if Solomon Washington plays the way he did against Oregon and scores around 15, 14, he had 17 against Oregon, but if he scores around 15 points and we could get some offense from some other areas, I think Maryland has the opportunity to potentially beat Indiana. Solomon Washington really had a double-double. He's looked good. We already know the type of defensive player he is. Now, if we can get some type of support from around him, I think Maryland's going to have the opportunity to win the game. Now, the problem against Oregon was nobody else could do really anything. I mean, Isaiah Watts played decently. I would like to see more minutes from him. Darius Adams continues to be inconsistent with the shot, but he does get to his spots a lot. But if somebody else can pick up some slack offensively, whether it's Diggy Coit, whether it's Miles Rice, who's kind of having a return game against Indiana, but he hasn't been very good. I do think Maryland can do something, especially if they get that offensive production from Solomon Washington. But you still ask where the production is going to come from. There's different guys that potentially could give it, but I would love to see someone actually end up playing at a high level and actually being able to give it and play at a high level offensively, because right now we haven't seen that from Maryland basketball, but Indiana hasn't really done that either. And then also, it's interesting because you look at Indiana, they haven't rebounded particularly really well. Like offensive rebounding, when you look at it, I was reading online that they struggle to create second chances. 9.4 offensive boards per game, second fewest in the Big Ten. In their losses, they've averaged only 7 a game. And when I think of Maryland, I think this team right now is really small. It's a small team. We're just don't have a ton of size, and if Maryland's able to if Maryland doesn't have to worry too much about the glass, then I think it makes it a lot easier for us to win the game, because I know some teams we played so far this season have definitely gotten us on the glass. And if the Terps don't have to worry about that, I think they can do this thing against Indiana. Now, you got to defend without fouling, which I think is something that we could be able to do, because as soon as Indiana starts getting the free throw line, they're really good from the free throw line. 77% from the free throw line is top 25 in Division One. So definitely something that you want to look out for Maryland. But it could be a defensive battle, and to me, that still favors Indiana at the end of the day. Just they're a better team. Like the spread 7.5. I looked at it right before I did that this morning. The spread 7.5 for a reason. But I do think Maryland could potentially cover that and could potentially do some things defensively that you wouldn't expect Maryland to be able to do going into this game if you just looked at the records of the game. But when you dive into the stats, they have a chance at this thing. I do. It's a home game, so I do think that they have the opportunity to be able to win this game and get their first Big Ten win. We'll see what ends up happening at 6:30 p.m. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but Buzz Williams desperately needs some type of meaningful win for, I think, a lot of people to feel decent about the path of not even really this year, just the future of the team. And so we'd love to see him get a win, get some momentum. A lot of these players are probably dragging. It's probably hard when you're losing all these types of games, but you would love to see Buzz Williams get a win. Let's talk a little bit Maryland football. Maryland Football needs more portal ads at certain positions. They added 2 players yesterday. We talked about it a little bit, but there's still a long way to go. We'll talk about that next. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible times, Rougiette is ready and is designed to help you take back control. Rougiette's Ready is a next generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rougiette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rougiette Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You connect with a board certified doctor online and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 50% off your order for limited time. Rougiette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. So let's talk a little Maryland football. So a little interesting uh, thing kind of happened yesterday. We talked about it with Maryland adding 2 transfers in the portal class, which has obviously become a really bad or a really big thing. And now Maryland's up to 3 guys in their transfer portal class. They got 2 running backs and 1 receiver, and I think that the receiver and was a really big ad, and I think the running back's an interesting ad. I don't know how good it is or how big it's going to be. I don't know what the running back rotation will look like next year, but the receiver I think has potential to be our best guy. Like I think there's an opportunity for that to happen, or our second or third best guy. I expect him absolutely to be in the rotation with Naheem coming from ODU, 51 catches, 667 yards. And then we also signed USC running back transfer Harry Dalton, who is an interesting type of player, was from the DMV area. So we'll see how that kind of works out for him. But that's another guy that we added that has some juice, has some flavor to him. So we'll see what ends up happening with those 2 guys. But I just wanted to sit up here and say there's still plenty to add to this Maryland team. And I think still, like, arguably number one, this receiver room is still really shallow. Like, I would love to add someone proven, someone with some type of track record in the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC. I would love to see that because right now the room's pretty empty with losing Octavian, with losing Shalik, with losing Jaleel Farouk. That's our top 3 guys. Like, that was our receiving room this year. Like, if you look at the receptions, the receiving leaders on this year, it was Shalik, it was Jaleel, it was those guys, Octavian, and it's kind of, and Maryland has always kind of brought back a couple receivers over the last couple of years where you always kind of felt like it was a strength going into next year. But now it doesn't really feel that way. There's strengths in other areas, which might end up being a good thing. But I think this receiving room absolutely has to get addressed because you guys have to remember how much we enjoy throwing the football. It's all Maryland football does is throw that ball, is throw the football. And so I think we desperately need to add somebody to be able to do that and have the ability to stay up to date, if you will, and stay up to the game plan. And most importantly, let's not forget the direction here. Malik Washington's our guy, and we earned another year with him. But if we want to earn another year with him, and I know you don't always want to talk about the future, but if you want to have, let's just say this, if you want to have a good year with Malik Washington, he's going to need guys to throw to. Dorian Fleming coming back is important, but Malik's going to need guys on the outside that mean something. And I don't know how many of those young guys are actually going to be able to step up, and there's really not a ton of them, to be completely honest. So receivers, like, number one, we just have to add. I think the offensive line, we're definitely losing some guys to the draft. There's definitely guys coming back, whether it's Michael Hershey, Ryan Howerton. There's definitely some guys up there coming back, but I think you got to add like a one or two, or not one or two, I would say 2 to 3. And Maryland did a lot of that last year, was adding offensive and defensive linemen to add to the team, and I think Maryland needs to do more of that. I think that needs to happen again for the Terps to be successful, is to add more offensive linemen. I think that has to happen, and interior defensive linemen. I think the edge is pretty good for Maryland football. Wouldn't worry about that. Zion Ely coming in, and you already have 2 guys that were freshman All-Americans. I wouldn't worry about that, but I do think, or I wouldn't worry about the linebacker room too either. But I think the interior defensive line, I know we added a lot of guys, but we're losing some guys up there. I think adding 1 or 2 guys up there could be big. Like, I want to add some guys that could actually really help us. And then I think in the secondary, I think we have some guys, but I think adding a corner and adding a safety would help as well. But when you really think about this roster is getting retained in a lot of different ways. Like, I think last year I was like, Maryland could add a guy everywhere. Like, I was like, we could use I was like, Malik Washington probably starts at quarterback, but I was like, we could probably use outside of running back, because I felt good about Nolan Ray and some of those guys, but maybe that wasn't a good way to look at it. But I was like, you probably need a receivers, you probably need offensive line, you need a tight end, absolutely. And I was like, you need a defensive lineman everywhere. I was like, you need probably a linebacker, you probably need a corner, you probably need a safety. Like, I was literally like, I don't know a position group that we don't like need. And so it's already 100% in a better place than it was last year, because a lot of those guys are returning, and a lot of the guys that are returning played last year a lot and played high level football. And they say the biggest jump you make is from freshman to sophomore year, and a lot of those guys are making that jump and are jumping from freshman to sophomore year. And so you absolutely expect them to be able to play well. And so I hope this is kind of the new thing under this AD, is retention is something that's going to be really big in college football. But it is nice to see us be able to get guys, but I'm curious to see who we get in the portal. We're not going to get those tippy top guys, those top caliber guys, but I want to see if we can add anyone that's had somewhat of an impact in a real program over the last couple of years. I want to see if that's a possibility, or if that's something that could happen for Maryland football. So we'll just have to see what ends up coming together for us, and see what ends up happening. But I do think we could add a couple players in some spots. But it's a good start. I think we were bad at running the football, so it's probably good for us to get somebody, or get a couple running backs. But I do think that that's more about an upfront issue, and I'll always mostly say that. And so I would love to see us continue to get better in the trenches, and then also at receiver, clearly. But let's talk about Maryland's 2026 basketball class. Can it save Maryland basketball, which is pretty bad, pretty sad right now? We'll talk about that next. College football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day or the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users gets a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And here's what I love about it: you get to use a profit boost on bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset coming, or build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. Then you apply the profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. There's so many different things to bet on. There's NFL playoffs. There's also the college football playoffs with some really interesting matchups in the NBA, the NHL. There's so many different things that you can do on FanDuel right now. And FanDuel's the best place to get on the action all playoff long. You guys have to visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. FanDuel, so many different things to bet. You can put on future bets. You can put on bets right now. You guys have to head over to FanDuel. So I wanted to talk about the Maryland basketball 2026 class because obviously there's not too much this year. I don't want to say it's a lost cause, but man, it doesn't look great for Maryland basketball. And the funny thing about it is usually when you have a bad year, it's really hard kind of to turn over the roster and make it a good year. That's the thing about college sports. The NBA, you have a bad year, you might end up with one of those top 3 or 4 draft picks. And in this year's draft class, it looks really appealing. But obviously, this is college basketball that when you have a bad year, it is really tough to turn the program around. It's really tough to do things in recruiting and different things like that. But Maryland basketball has the opportunity to do that. I think year one under Buzz Williams hasn't gone maybe the way we wanted, but also when you completely have to turn around a complete roster and start over, you can't really blame him a ton. There's holes, there's weaknesses on this team, there's different things like that, but a lot of that to be expected when you have to get a completely new 12 guys on your team or whatever the number of guys are. And I think that this 2026 class is really kind of the present waiting under our tree, a little late Christmas gift for us to kind of look forward to, even though the bad year is definitely in the books almost and definitely doesn't look great. We have this 2026 class to look forward to in the future that could really help the Terps. That I looked at it this morning, it's still ranked as a top 5 class in the 2026. It's ranked number 4 on 247 overall rank and composite rank, which kind of surprises me. But there's a lot of really good players in the class, and you look at it and you're like, all right, this team can definitely end up doing some things and playing well for this class and be able to really come out successful from this 2026 class that I think Maryland basketball definitely can end up being get back to where they are or want to be as a program. You got maybe the most talented kid in that class in Baba who reclassified up. If he's what we think he is, he's going to be a star. And if Maryland, like I keep this theme for Maryland football, is retaining players, being able to get guys back. If we can bring back a lot of these players, especially like guy comes to mind like a Darius Adams, like if we can bring him back, we're gonna be able to pair him with some of these guys and some of the other players in Maryland's roster as well. If you can bring them back, then I think you could have a talented team next year. And then Caden House, the guard, 4-star ranked, number 6 at his position, another kid that potentially could have a big impact next year, could potentially maybe be a starter. Who knows? And then Adama, he's very Buzz Williams coded, 4-star forward. He's going to play hard, energy, freak athlete, really good defensively. Then Austin Brown might be one of the better shooters that we have on our team right away. So it's a class that could rejuvenate Maryland basketball, could put us back in a better spot to succeed and play at a high level. But we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see with Maryland basketball because I just don't know right now. With the current roster, I think a lot of guys could end up leaving, and you're going to have to start over in a lot of places in the portal. But I do think there's a good collection of talent on the team where it could definitely get turned around next year. And I definitely want to give Buzz Williams the benefit of the doubt. I haven't agreed with all his decisions. I haven't agreed with everything he's done, but I definitely want to give him the benefit of the doubt overall because I know that he had success at Texas A&M. There's a reason he's here, but I definitely want to see some things improve and get better, and we're definitely going to have to start to see that if we want to feel better about Maryland basketball. But that 2026 class can save it for sure. That's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked On Terps.